Well, as they say, the tax man does indeed cometh, and unfortunately, he will probably come bearing austerity. That is what a lot of us are fearing tomorrow, and especially, as I've said a lot recently, a lot of local councils are probably going to be dreading what will happen to their budgets tomorrow as well. Because the first lot of austerity going all the way back to 2010 was very much laid at the feet of local councils, and one of my local councils was or my local councillors was quoted not too long ago in the news how austerity felt, and he's summed it up with one simple phrase, and he said things just disappear, from play groups to mum groups to even things like that. But unfortunately, going back to that, you've seen the rise of food banks with the cutting of social welfare. These have been an absolute disaster. And I have to answer this simple question of tomorrow, would, or as is very likely, if austerity is announced yet again tomorrow, we have to ask the serious question: is the British public seriously going to accept that austerity is the only way? Because there are other ways besides austerity. There are other ways. The government could invest rather than cut back, and this would be seen as a good financial investment. But it's Rishi Sunak and the Conservatives, and one of the things we have to repeat is that Rishi Sunak, when it comes to the economy, is a lot more right wing even than Boris Johnson was. So before we go into talking more about austerity and sort of potentially what may happen tomorrow, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a notification link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. So it is very likely we will get austerity tomorrow. As far as I'm aware, the budget, or this not budget but financial statement, is going to go ahead, and a lot of people are very, very worried, and I think quite rightly worried, that we will get more austerity. And it is probably a dead certain bet that we are going to get more austerity. Like you say, every single Conservative government since 2010 has chosen the path of austerity. And Rishi Sunak, being as right wing as he is, pretty certain is going to go down the austerity route. That is almost a dead certain. But with very much all our public services and finance and still recovering from austerity already cut to the very bone, what meat is still left from there to cut? I think these cuts are going to be rebranded as efficiency savings, and I think this is potentially how they could sell it, or how they're going to try and sell it. But more worryingly, of course, very recently, when you do change prime ministers, you do get to see a bump in the polls. And one of the things that has certainly currently the only thing that the Conservatives are beating Labour in the polls in is which government do people want to lead them essentially out of this austerity. Unfortunately, I think it's 33 by sort of 29, which is not exactly a big gap, but it's still a gap. And unfortunately, people still choose Conservatives. But we've been through austerity before. We know how bad it was. And I think Labour should be making two very clear cases here. That first of all, austerity is not the only way. I think Labour should be offering alternatives to what we could do instead of austerity. And the second thing they should definitely be offering is, rather than just saying we should have a general election, they should be making the case as to why we should be having a general election. And I think having a general election to allow the British public to decide whether they want to go down an austerity 2.0 route, or do they go down the Labour way, which is a different way than austerity. And I've said before, I think the British public should be allowed to make that decision. And I think that is a far, far, far more credible case for having a general election than the Tories, who basically just don't want to have one because they know that going to a general election at this moment in time still pretty much means they're probably going to lose. And part of the reason why Rishi Sunak has been brought in is to, well, essentially try and avoid a complete and utter wipeout. Even Michael Gove has come out today and said that Rishi Sunak should actually apologize for what he described as a holiday from reality. So that's certainly a very big dig at Liz Truss. And we've heard a lot since then, even before Liz Truss became PM, that there was no love lost between those two. So this is all about trying to again restore their party's credibility, and I think Starmer is right from what you've seen, taking those attack ads back to Rishi Sunak, saying, "Hey, look, this isn't just this how we got here isn't just going to be solved by Rishi Sunak, nor is it all on the shoulders of Liz Truss, even though a lot of it is. It is down to years of Tory leadership and failing economic mismanagement by them of choosing the austerity route." And one thing in particular that I worry that will probably happen tomorrow, this is the Resolution Foundation. So the Resolution Foundation has warned that this week that a real term freeze in the day-to-day public services spending would save about £20 billion a year by 26 to 27. However, it would completely slash all these departmental budgets and it would plunge us back into the very depths of austerity. The foundation has warned that taking Britain back to the peak of austerity is unlikely to be very credible, given the current pressures on many public services, making tax rises more likely, which we'll have to see if that is the true tomorrow. However, they went on to also say this, that significant day-to-day public spending services are on the cards, while protecting areas such as health and defence, said James Smith, the research director. This would repeat a very key option chosen by the Conservative-led government since 2010. Freezing spending in real terms would save about 20 billion a year and a further 9% cuts to public services such as transport, policing, housing, and take Britain into a new era of austerity. Given the political ramifications of such moves, the PM and the Chancellor may choose tax rises instead to fill the far more current fiscal hole than the Conservatives' predecessors in Downing Street did. And that, to be honest, is what a lot of people are hoping, that instead Rishi Sunak is going to raise taxes. But remember, Rishi Sunak is a lot more right-wing. And there's one thing the Conservatives do not like to do, and that is to raise taxes. I fear he will maybe raise some taxes, but I think he will also go down the austerity route as well. And we will see real cuts to public spending, which will make, this winter even more harder for millions of people across this country. But as always, like I say, thank you very much for watching. And of course, we'll find out what happens tomorrow with this, new fiscal event. But as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, we'll see you all very soon.